Hello everybody, how are you? Yes? Everyone is okay? Ready for some Agile stuff? Right? A whole day full of Agile stuff, I hope. So, I'm going to talk about change. Because when you learn about Agile and Scrum and extreme programming and all these Agile frameworks, it's not that hard to learn them. It's fairly well understood by now. There's videos and books and articles and courses. The hard part is the change itself, right? So, let's talk a little bit about that. I think of the role of change to be being a change agent. I think of change agent as kind of an attitude that coaches and leaders need to have to cause change to happen. So, what is a change agent? To me, it's just like it's an attitude. It's a habit. As a change agent, you're obsessed with improvement. There are people in the world who look at everything and all they see is problems, right? And then they complain about it. But change agent is somebody who looks at the world and all they see is problems, and then they try to fix it. So hand up if you feel like you're also a change agent. I'm curious. I'm hoping to see every hand up, because what the heck, right? Agile is about continuous improvement. So if you're not a change agent, you need to become one quickly. Otherwise, Agile is going nowhere. and I hope to give some practical tips along the way. So it's not a role. It's not like this person is a change agent and then nobody else gets to do it. Anybody can be a change agent, regardless of your role. So that's going to be the first learning point. I'm going to put these up on a board here, and this board will be outside in the other side of the conference later on for conversations and things like that. So we'll build this little picture. All right. So how do you change an organization? And I have a short answer and a longer answer. And the short answer is you can't. Sorry. Well, thank you very much. So, this was short. Do we have time for questions, I think? Oh, everyone's still here. I'm guessing you're here because you want the long answer and you're not happy with this short answer? Darn, okay. Yeah, okay, so what's the longer answer? The short answer is you can't change an organization. The long answer is a bit contradictory because the long answer is it's easy. and let me demonstrate that. So everybody, please go ahead and change something on yourself right now. Turn your glasses upside down, or cross your legs the other way. Change something on yourself, everybody. Even I can see you guys in the back too, so yeah, that applies to you too. Let's see, change. 800 instances of people changing themselves, right? Over there too, change yourself. I can see you. Let's see it, right? A lot of change happening. All right. Next thing, round 2. Everybody change someone else. Change something on somebody else. Go for it. Let's see. Don't be shy, you're among friends. It's a little bit trickier, right? It's a little bit more awkward, maybe. Most of you managed, except you. I saw you didn't do it. Just kidding. All right, we just witnessed 3 types of change going on here, right? One was you changed yourself, most of you. And number 2 was you changed someone else, right? And what was number 3? Anybody? You gotta just shout. What was the third example of? What? Change the world. Actually, we didn't change the world right now, but I did manage to get everybody here to change. So you changed yourself, and then you changed someone else, and I made all you guys change. Ha! fooled. I told you, change is easy, right? I just made everyone change. The hard part isn't changing stuff. The hard part is making it stick. So how many of you have already gone back to the previous state? Hand up if you already changed back, right? Like just about everybody, right? So that's the hard part, making change stick. So yeah, change is easy if people want it, but it's unlikely to change if people, it's unlikely to stick if people don't want it. So let's put that up as a kind of learning point. And what if people don't want to change? Well, what if I asked everybody to get up on your chair and take off all your clothes and start dancing? I don't see anybody doing that, right? Probably because you don't want to. And if people don't want to change, they won't, generally speaking. And even if they do, it definitely won't stay, right? So that's kind of the trick. Find out what kind of change do people actually want, and then, yeah, it tends to get easier. So you can't change people, but you can inspire them to change themselves. So we'll be talking about that. So inspiring people to change themselves is a lot more effective than trying to force people. Especially, it's more likely to stick. So in order for this to happen, one thing you need to do as change agent, regardless of whatever your official role is you need to create space for change, right? Because changing involves reflecting, right? It means taking a step back and thinking about, well, what is my current situation? What's working and what's not? What do I want to change? It also takes some time, right? In Scrum, we have this thing called retrospectives, right? Well, guess what? If you are a coder, doing retrospectives equals not coding. And it might feel a little bit unproductive, right? Oh man, I'm supposed to build a product, and here I am just talking and putting up sticky notes. But you need to create this space, and if people are too stressed for it, then they won't have time to reflect, they won't have time to try new ideas, and they definitely won't have time to fail. And then it's hard to make any kind of change. Right? So in that sense, you need to slow down to speed up. Which of course takes patience and long-term thinking. So slowing down to speed up is another one of those slightly paradoxical things that you need to create in your environment. Now, when you're working to change an organization, you are actually working at multiple levels. You're working to maybe help this team improve or help this department get better results, whatever it is. You're trying to make something better, right? But there's a second thing going on too, which is you're trying to spread the change agent mindset to other people. Because if you don't do that, it doesn't scale, right? You can't change stuff alone. You can't get very far alone. So to scale yourself, you need to work with other people, pair with other people, and then continuously look for ways to kind of spread this mindset, right? Personally, I like to work in pairs. So if I'm typically an external consultant, and I come in, and typically I would pair with somebody internal, right? Now we're two people. And that means that when I leave, some of these techniques and mindset will kind of rub off on this other person, and then they're going to take it with them, and maybe it'll spread across the organization. If you don't do that, well, guess what? Change agent comes in, does their voodoo magic, leaves, everything back to normal again, right? Now, there is a kind of psychological problem with the change agent mindset. And I'm pretty sure some of you have experienced this problem. The list of things to improve, the backlog of improvements and problems is infinite, right? It never ends. You can fix 10 things, and guess what? There's going to be another 10 things to fix tomorrow. So it never ends. So the backlog of problem is infinite. but the number of you is finite, right? So there's one you and an infinite number of problems, which means that no matter how effective you are, the list never ends, right? That can get depressing. It can be depressing to be a change agent because you're always trying to fix stuff and there's always more stuff to fix. So there you kind of need a bit of a mindset shift. Personally, I had to go through that or I would have just burned out, right? So the mindset that I find useful there is, well, scrum it, right? You use an agile approach to that. Think of it as a backlog, an impediment backlog or an improvement backlog, and there's all these things on it, right? Prioritize it. Talk to people, find out which problem is the most important, right? Maybe make a top 3 list. Say, these 3 problems are the ones we're going to focus on, or maybe just this one problem. And what do we do with the rest of the problems? Nothing. We just ignore them intentionally, right? So maybe problem number 1 is, oh, we have really horrible user stories. Problem number 2 is our work environment is really noisy, we can't get anything done. Problem 3 is we have technical debt in our code. Problem number 4 is we keep getting disrupted by the sales department. They keep bothering us every day, right? Well, guess what? Let's say we decide to focus on those top 3. Number 4, the salespeople coming in disturbing us, never mind. We'll just accept that. We'll not worry about it, not stress about it. We choose to live with that problem for the time being because it's not the important problem. And once we've fixed or at least improved one of those other problems, then we can deal with that problem of how we interact with the sales department, for example. It's a very useful mindset to cultivate both in your own head but also with the team. Because I've noticed that people are happier if you're kind of clear about this problem is going to get solved, we're going to try to solve this. The other ones, don't worry about it, live with it, we'll just leave them alone for right now. Right? You can even make a list of problems we're not going to solve right now, backlog, right, or something. So fix it or accept it. 2 options. The third option is complain about it. But that's not a very nice option. Skip that one, right? Complaining doesn't help. Now, I've noticed one pitfall with this. If you pick one problem and you're trying to solve it, right? What if you can't? What if you're working on this one problem and you keep trying to solve it and you don't get anywhere? That happened to me. I worked a bunch of years at Spotify in Stockholm, and so I would typically have this main focus area, and I'm trying to help solve it. And sometimes after a few weeks or even a few months, I noticed I'm not getting anywhere. We're spending a lot of time, and it's not getting any better at all, right? So I learned a really important lesson there. Remember, the problem backlog is infinite, right? Which means there is technically an infinite number of other problems that you can solve better than this one, probably. So if you get stuck, well, don't just give up immediately, but if you keep getting stuck, don't beat a dead horse, right? Leave it alone. So I was unable to fix this problem right now. Never mind, we'll just park it and we'll take the next one, right? So I think of it kind of like, imagine a wall full of strings, right? As a change agent, you're deciding which string to pull. So each string is like a problem, right? You're like, technical debt, that's a problem. Let's see if we can do something about that, right? Or maybe how we interact with our customer, maybe that's a problem. Or maybe our team structure is really bad. Let's do something about that. Pick one where I'll take this one and you kind of pull it, right? Trying to solve it. And sometimes it was easy, right? Oh, we have testers over here and a developer over here. I just moved the tester into the development team and they work together and then boom, all these problems just disappeared. So that string I just pulled and it came right out, right? No problem. Other strings, you pull it and then you start seeing bombs coming down and fire and the alligators come out of the floor and dragons flying through the window. Like, whoa, I'll just leave that alone right now. That problem doesn't want to be solved right now. We'll put that back in, right? And then this string over here, I'm like, trying to pull it and never get anywhere. So I think of the change agent mindset as trying these different strings and noticing that, here I can make a big difference, right? Another useful metaphor, I'm giving you all kinds of crazy metaphors. You pick the one that works best for you, right? Another useful metaphor is planting seeds. So I think of it kind of like as a change agent, as I'm helping the company improve, I'm planting seeds. Every interaction is like planting a seed. And you don't know, is that going to turn into something good or not? So let me give a real life example. I was working on this one problem at Spotify. I don't remember which problem it was, but we had improvement teams working on it, and we were using structured problem-solving techniques and just not really getting anywhere. And then one day, I was by the coffee machine, and I bumped into a person. It was a tribe lead, and he's like, "Hi, I'm having some trouble with my tribe. It's gone too big, and we need to split into smaller squads. And I don't know how to split it into smaller squads. I don't know what the right way of dividing the organization is." And we're making tea and coffee, and I'm like, "Well, have you considered just letting the teams self-organize let your tribe self-organize into teams instead of you trying to figure it out? There are techniques for that." And I gave him a link to an article or something, and he's like, "Oh, that sounds like a good idea. I might try that." That was a 5-minute interaction. He went back and he tried it, and it worked really well. So he was really happy about it, and then that technique spread to other tribes, and then a lot of people started doing it. So that was an example of a seed that I dropped kind of by accident, and that just spread and became really useful. Well, this other plant I've been working on, trying to put water on it, give it the right sun, and fiddling with it, didn't go anywhere. So now I don't worry about it anymore. Try to solve a problem, didn't work out, whatever, never mind, try something else. And maybe something very surprising will turn out to be really useful, even though you didn't expect it. So planting seeds is a quite nice mindset, I find, as a coach or a change agent. Another challenge is, how do you know if you're succeeding, right? How do you measure success as a change agent? That question comes up quite often. Just curious, put your hand up if that's something you've been wondering about or been talking about in your context. How do we measure if our work as a coach is succeeding, right? So I've concluded that you really can't. And that's actually okay. Because suppose I work with a team over here, right? I go and coach them. Let's say I introduce Scrum. And they start doing Scrum, and now they're doing better. They're happier, and they're delivering better stuff faster, right? So how many of you would conclude that, this was a successful change agent interaction? Hand up if you think this was a success metric. The team improved when I was there, right? Let me see. Hand up if that's what you would suggest, right? We got a few. So it might look like that, right? But the problem is, we don't really know, because maybe they would have done even better if I didn't come, right? I can't go to the parallel universe. Let's say there's a parallel universe where I didn't come there, right? And I can A/B test and compare. Universe A, Henrik helped the team. Universe B, Henrik didn't help the team. And in universe B, things got better. Okay, then I can start drawing conclusions, right? But I don't know how to do that experiment. If you know how to create parallel universes, please let me know. I would love to know. So until then, you're just guessing. In the same way, what if I help a team, nothing changed, right? Is that failure? No. Maybe if I didn't go there, things would have gotten worse. So maybe not changing was a lot better than getting worse. So it's kind of like you can plant seeds and you can go away, you can come back and you can look, did that turn out something nice? And if it did, well, you can't say if it's you or not, because guess what? There's lots of other people also planting seeds and watering and things like that. So yeah, don't take it personally. It's hard to know if you're succeeding or failing. There are some indicators though. Personally, I use the very simple indicator, do people seem to be happy that I'm around? Do they want me to be around or not, right? That's an indicator. Although even that one is a little bit misleading. Because in some cases, maybe the team doesn't need you anymore because they're doing great. So you did a great job. You helped them improve and become self-improving. They don't need you anymore. Not because you failed, but because you succeeded. So even that's kind of hard, right? Right, so don't worry too much about proving that you're succeeding. And that applies to most roles. How can you prove that a manager is doing a good job, or prove that a developer is doing a good job? It's not about the individual, right? It's about teams working together. And when teams work together, it's hard to see exactly who's succeeding or failing, and it doesn't really matter too much. So that leads to the next point. As a change agent, try not to have a big ego, because then you'll be a not very effective change agent. Those people tend to be the ones that are standing in the front, holding the flag, pointing the direction, sometimes micromanaging the teams, kind of looking like a hero, being very busy, sometimes a bit stressed, but again, not being very effective. And as soon as they leave, things kind of slow down again. So, yeah, skip the whole ego thing. Funny experience. I used to work at Lego in Denmark, and after about a year there, going there on a regular basis, I wanted to follow up because I was going to continue the engagement, and I was curious what should I be doing more of and less of. So I told people like, hi, I've been here for about a year. Here's a list of stuff I've been doing, workshops and doing inspirational talks and problem-solving sessions by the whiteboard, asking stupid questions, spreading ideas. And I asked people, what's most useful, do you think, out of these interactions? And guess what they told me? Just about everybody told me the same thing. What do you think out of those items? Any guess? Asking stupid questions, yes! That's what they said. They said, the other stuff, Henrik, that's pretty useful, but asking stupid questions, that's the gold, right? I was really surprised because sometimes I felt a bit embarrassing asking stupid questions like, why do we have green, yellow, and red status markers for projects? When the projects are all green until the end, then they're all red, and it's too late to do anything about it. That's right. People don't notice things if they're inside the system too long. You become kind of blind, you don't notice. As someone comes from the outside, ask questions like that. Why do we have testers over here and developers over there? Just asking questions that sometimes may seem rather stupid. And of course, in order to do that, you need to, again, be ready to kind of drop the ego. So there's a pitfall as a change agent, which I'm going to illustrate using a short demonstration. I'm going to need some help from Peter. You want to come up here and help? Yeah. Peter's going to be helping. I'll give him a big hand. That's great. Yes. So let's say Peter here he's a development team, right? And he develops toast, right? So that's what to do, right? This is Peter's toast. Now the problem is the toast that this team develops, it looks kind of like that, right? It's a bit burned, right? Yeah. But they're used to working this way, and they ship it to customers, and the customers aren't very happy about it, right? So, and sales is going down, right? The business is not looking too good. So the manager is really worried about it. He's like, we have to solve this problem, right? We have a low-quality product. So what do? Well, you bring in a consultant, of course, right? That's what you always do when you have a problem. You bring in a consultant, right? The consultant comes in and says, you know what? He talks to the team, looks at the toast, and he's like, I know, you have a quality problem, says the consultant. And we're like, yeah, duh, right? What do I do about it? And he's like, you need to introduce quality control. You don't have quality control, right? Ah, that's right, we don't have quality control. So that's why we have quality problems. Okay, let's introduce quality control. And her name is Emma, so let's give her a hand. Yeah. Tackar, vi kan hålla den. So we have the team here, right? And quality control is a little bit over here. And the job of quality control is to fix the problem, right? So let's fix this problem, Emma. Right, make this better, right? Here we go, right? We got some bugs here, right? Cool. Can I taste? We'll see if it's better now, right? No, still no. Let's scrape a bit more. Yeah, cool. We're fixing bugs here. Cool. And ship it, right? We ship it to the customers. Now when we do that, wait a sec, this was horrible. Let me just have a drink. It tastes horrible. Don't eat it. It tastes horrible. Yeah. Can I have it? I'll give you a better toast in a moment. So, technically, we succeeded, right? Because things got better. We now have better quality than before, right? So we have this concept of, let's get the team back here, right? This is the team over here. The concept of, I burn, you scrape, right? And then, so development and test. And we technically improved the situation. And this consultant may look like a hero. But of course, it's not a really good idea, right? We introduced waste. We introduced a handoff. We increased the cycle time. The product is still pretty bad. Plus, we've made the problem permanent. Because why should we make better toast now? We have a team here that fixes the problem, right? And they're paid for it. So this team doesn't even want toast to be nice, because then they don't have a job. So burnt toast is now permanent. You're hungry. I got a better one for you. Yeah. So how do we get better toast? Well, the solution is put these together, right? You guys be one team like that. Single team. And we make the customers, or we make this team eat toast. So here you can have some toast now if you want. You want it? Yeah, let me hold that. This one's better than the other one, right? We teach the team to eat toast. And if they notice it doesn't taste good, what are they going to do? Well, they're going to improve it, right? Consume your own product. Of course, if the product is not for you, it's for someone else, well, at least go out and observe how the product gets used, right? So yes, we still need testers. Put them in the team, work together, let the team notice the consequence of their shipments, and then they will self-improve. It's great. So yeah, thank you very much. Give them a big hand, right? Thank you. You want it? Yeah. So change agents, don't be a toast scraper, right? That's the key point here. Don't fix symptoms, fix root cause, even though it takes more patience, more analysis, more thinking. All right, so how do you make change happen, right? As I mentioned, you want to unleash the motivation to change. You want to unleash the desire, right? Oh, the ego fell on the floor. Maybe we should leave it there. There we go. So how do you unleash the desire? How do you find ways for people to want to change, right? Because again, if they don't want to, they won't. And I find it really useful. This is something I learned from Jerry Weinberg. Most of the stuff in this talk is stuff I learned from Jerry Weinberg. He died a few months ago, really sad. Very inspiring person, has written so many books full of wisdom, so I can recommend his stuff. But one of the Jerry Weinberg isms is don't sell solutions, sell problems. And what that means is, if you're talking to somebody and you're trying to convince them to do Scrum, for example, or Kanban, or SAFe, or the Spotify model, or whatever it is, don't convince people, because you're trying to convince them to apply a solution, right? Usually not very effective. What's better is to sell the problem, right? What problem do I think we're trying to solve? And does this customer or does this team agree that we even have this problem? Because if not, your solution is not going to work. So, silly metaphor here, right? Instead of kind of convince people to build a bridge, we want to show that a bridge is needed. We want to show that the river is in the way and that we need to cross it. Make that visible. And once you do that, now you have people's attention, right? Teams, managers, customers, they're going to be like, that's right, this river, it's a problem. And now they're going to start thinking, right? And maybe you were thinking a bridge would be useful, but you're not selling a bridge, right? You're selling the problem. And as a result, they may come up with other solutions that you didn't even think about, right? So what are some other ways of getting across this river other than building a bridge? Hint, one's already on the picture. Drain the river is one option, right? That boat could be an option, a ferry. Maybe we could use a cannon and shoot people over, or we can reroute the river. Or maybe we can even question, why do we need to cross the river anyway? Maybe we can do whatever it is we're going to do there over here instead, right? So you unleash people's creativity when you kind of sell the problem instead of the solution. Plus, you might get smarter because guess what? You as change agent, you're probably not the smartest person in the room. It's statistically unlikely, especially in a big room like this, right? You're probably not the smartest person in the room. So if you make the problem visible, then other people will come up with solutions that sometimes are better than what you would have thought, right? So again, that's where the ego thing comes in. Drop that. And another technique that helps a lot is visualization. I would say visualization is almost like magic. If you make a problem really visible and nothing happens, what does that mean? Like here, I held up the mirror. Look, your hat is burning, right? And what if there's no reaction? What does that mean? Then it wasn't a big problem. Maybe it was just a problem for you as change agent, right? So that's a good test. Maybe he's like, I know my hat is burning. It's a fashion statement, right? Okay. I'll leave you to it, and I'll go help these guys instead over here, right? Or maybe you show the mirror, and he's like, my hat is burning, and then you can say, okay, let's talk about possible solutions here, such as, taking off the hat, or maybe using a fire extinguisher in your face, or I don't know, let's talk about it, right? So make stuff visible. It's a great way to, A, find out if the problem is worth solving, but B, to engage people, right? Now they're willing to change because they see the problem. So here's a problem, a pitfall that I used to fall into all the time. And I think most people that are new to the role of change agent are going to make this mistake. Maybe I can help you avoid it. So most common mistake as a change agent. Are you ready? Drum roll. It's the biggest, most common problem. Psh. That one. Don't inflict help on people. That's another one from Jerry Weinberg. This is when you're trying to help people who don't want help. They're okay with the current situation. And why do we do that? Well, because, it's our nature, right? We want to help. We want to improve things. And sometimes we forget to check, is that actually, does this person want help, right? Maybe this guy wants to lie in the water and relax, right? And here we are trying to save his life. You might just check, do you need help? So how many of you have made this mistake? Let's be honest. Put your hand up. Right. That's a lot of hands. Very common. And the solution is really, really simple. All you have to do is ask. Do you want help? Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 words. Do you want help? Very simple. So I'm often an external consultant with companies, but everything I'm talking about here applies just as much even if you're improving your own company. In the past, I was an entrepreneur and a manager. I had my own companies, and I would be applying these techniques inside. So it applies equally well. But there is this dirty little secret about consultants. It's not much of a secret, actually. How many of you recognize the term out-of-town consultant syndrome? Does that sound familiar? The out-of-town consultant syndrome. That's when an external person comes in, right? And says exactly what everybody has been saying all along. Like, you know what? We need cross-functional teams here, says the external consultant. And the managers are like, yeah, wow, that's right. Let's pay that guy, and then let's introduce cross-functional teams. But then these teams have been saying this all along. They've been like, what the heck? I've been saying all along that we need cross-functional teams, and now you bring in this external guy who's saying the same thing, and now you listen. It's a very common problem. I don't know why exactly. Probably some psychologist could explain it better than me. But I would say use that. Use it shamelessly, right? So if you are the internal person, right, and you've been trying to say something all along, nobody's listening, maybe just get someone from outside to come in and kind of say the same thing. It does make a difference. If you're the external guy, sometimes I do that. I come in from outside because some company asks for help. Then I meet the teams and I'm like, hey guys, what have you been trying to say all along? And nobody's listening. Cross-functional teams, got it. Okay, I think you guys need cross-functional teams because of blah, 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 and now they all listen. So you can definitely use that, right? It's a very good trick. And as a result of that, again, scale yourself, pair. So external person, internal person, perfect match. Not just because of the out-of-town consultant syndrome, but also because of perspective, right? The internal person knows the history, knows why are things the way they are, knows who should you talk to about what, right? So they know the ropes. That's great. The external person has probably seen more different companies, has fresh eyes, can see things more clearly, at least for a little while. So that's a perfect match. So pairing is great. Okay, that was dirty trick number one. I can give you another dirty trick if you want. This is a good dirty trick. Most organizations don't like organizational change, especially structural changes, like changing the who reports to who is the managers, what is the team structure. That always creates some resistance, right? Because it's kind of scary. What's going to happen to my role, etc. So here's the trick. That's not the trick. The trick is sell experiments, right? Instead of saying, hey, let's try changing the organization, you can say, you know what, let's try an experiment. Right? So I worked at one company which had, they were building games, and they had all these departments that handed off to other departments, right? So designers would design the game, they hand off to another team, they make the sound, they hand off to another team, they write the code, right? They make toast. The next team scrapes the toast, right? And then they put it into production. And it was like a long chain. It was ineffective. So the first thing I did was visualize the problem. I just made that map clear, right? By talking to people. Got the right people into the room, talked to people, asked them how it works, made it visible. This is the current situation, right? I was not trying to suggest any changes. Just visualize the current situation. And just ask them, are you happy with this? Or do you want to change it? Again, it's worth asking these questions, right? It takes 2 years to build a game, and it's all handoffs. And out of those 2 years, it's only 3 months of actual work, and about 2 years minus 3 months. What's that? 24, 21 months of just stuff stuck in queues and waiting, right? So I showed this map and like, do you want to keep this or do you want to change it, right? And of course, they're like, well, we don't like this. We want to change it, right? So there was an interest to change it. And again, instead of trying to suggest that we change the whole structure, I suggested an experiment. How about we just make an experiment? We take a few people from each function, put them into a room, and essentially I was saying do Scrum, but I wasn't using all the funny words, right? So what if we get into a room and then this team builds one game from beginning to end, without interruptions, without handoffs. Everybody's in the same room. And we have a follow-up every 2 weeks. So that was a sprint review, right? A follow-up, just to check how's the game coming along. So it's just an experiment. We're not changing the organization. You still report to the same manager as before. The organizational chart looks the same. All we're saying is, are you willing to try for a few months, take your chair, move into this room, and just see what happens, right? And if we don't like it, guess what? You can go back, right? So that was okay. They were willing to try that. And the result was dramatic. They could finish a new game in just 3 months instead of 2 years. So after that, I never needed to suggest an organizational change. They did it themselves. They wanted to do it. So the combination of visualization plus an experiment caused a really big change. I didn't make that change happen, right? I just put the conditions in place to enable them to realize that they wanted that change all along, and then they made the change. Does that make sense? Right? See some nodding, that's good. That's kind of the key point here, right? Don't run around trying to change everything. It's kind of hopeless, hard, right? Okay, a really nice technique, and that's where this thing comes in. It's a general technique as a change agent, is get the right people into the room. I get really surprised how often this kind of just solves the problem. So say I'm working with an organization and I find out that this team has trouble working with that team, and there's lots of integration issues between them, right? So what I normally do then is just find out who are the key stakeholders to this problem. Who are the people that are affected by it? Who are the people who can do something about it, right? Who are the people who have information about it? And I just invite them to a meeting. That's pretty non-threatening, right? Just invite to a meeting. You don't need any formal power to do that. Just say, can I just have a chat with you, right? Can we go to this room? So now we have the right people in the room, right? These are people who care about the problem and maybe have the power to influence the problem. First thing I do, right, is visualize the problem, right? So this issue here, I heard this by interviewing people. I interviewed a few people, and what I heard was there's problems collaborating between these two teams. Would you agree? Does this match your view, right? You kind of need to check that. And if they're like, yes, it's a problem, okay. Again, don't inflict help on people. So then just ask, is this something that you want to solve right now? Because maybe there are other problems that are more important, right? So just ask, do you want to solve this? And if they say, yes, we want to solve it, great, you're almost done. You got the right people in the room, you have a problem statement, and you have a desire to improve it, right? Now all you pretty much need to do is say, okay, any suggestions? Any options? People start brainstorming. If it's a complex problem, maybe you need to do a little bit of root cause analysis. Just ask people, why is the toast burned? Right? Let's find out what makes the toast get burned. These bugs that are being shipped, or maybe this team is getting blocked by commits from that team because it's branching and merging problems. Let's do root cause analysis. Let's take some examples and find out why did this commit cause merge hell over there, right? A little bit. But you basically don't need to do much. You don't need to solve the problem. You got the right people into the room, ask them to solve it. You could pretty much just go have some coffee, right? Come back, there's going to be full of ideas. Almost always, they're going to have lots of ideas. And then all you need to do is say, okay, lots of ideas here. Which one should we try, right? Again, experiments. We're not making permanent changes here. We're doing experiments. People are much more likely to accept an experiment than a change, right? So, yeah. I would say once you get the right people into the room, you're halfway to the solution. Really powerful. And the solution doesn't need to be your solution. All right. Sometimes all of this stuff I talked about still fails. Right? You're trying to make stuff improve, it's not happening. So at some point, you probably need to apply the law of 2 feet. How many of you have heard about the law of 2 feet? Hand up. It's a pretty common concept in Agile conferences, for example, and open space. The law of 2 feet basically says, if you're not learning or contributing or having fun, I added the having fun part. If you're not learning or contributing or having fun where you're standing right now, use those 2 feet and go somewhere else where you can learn or contribute or have fun. Right? So we use that in conferences a lot, but guess what? Law of 2 feet applies to life as well. So if you're sitting there trying to help this team or this company or your colleagues or your manager or whatever, you're trying to help them improve and you're getting nowhere. You're not being appreciated for it. People think you're being difficult. At some point, you might just start thinking, you know what? Life is too short to help companies that don't want help. And there's so many other companies that do want to improve, right? So let those companies that don't want to improve, let them die in peace, right? And then go help their competitors or the other companies, because at some point, companies that don't improve don't have much of a future, at least these days, because, worldwide competition, increasing complexity, faster rate of change, you have to have continuous improvement, right? So yeah, your efforts will be appreciated elsewhere if they're not being appreciated here, probably. Final picture here. Most people forget most things in a talk, so last few words that I hope you'll remember. I find this to be really useful to kind of imprint in your head as a change agent. Be brave, be humble, and stay curious. So be brave, because you're going to be stepping on feet sometimes. You're changing the status quo, right? And another variant of the law of 2 feet is that the organization is full of feet with toes on it, and you're going to step on a few of them, right? So you need to kind of accept that. Not everybody's going to love what you do. Sorry, tough luck. Some people will not like the change, but they'll start liking it later, maybe, right? So if you're really afraid of making people upset or sad, then probably it's not the right job. But of course, be humble, right? Realize that sometimes, people don't like your change for a reason, because it's not a good change. right? Sometimes there's going to be other people with better ideas than yours, so you really want to lift those people up. And it's surprising how often things don't turn out like you thought, right? Organizational change is complex, so you need to stay curious. Now the slide disappeared because of that, but yeah, be brave, stay humble, and be curious, because that's what triggers learning. So yeah, thank you very much.